This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening and welcome to another session of I Am Well, Holistic Health and Wellness. Tonight, we have a wonderful, great, energetic presenter. Uh, we have Angela, and Angela is a registered dietitian and a licensed dietitian nutritionist and has a certificate of training in pediatric weight management. She was born and raised on Kent Island. Exactly where is that, Angela?
It's just across the Bay Bridge from Annapolis, the Eastern Shore of
Okay.
Maryland.
She received her Bachelor of Science in dietetics from University of Maryland, College Park. And she loves seeing customers celebrate their accomplishments, no matter how big or small. And we have a bunch of small ones. I don't know how many big ones we have, Angela, all right, but we're working on it. And as someone who does not love cooking, she likes to keep it simple but nutritious in the kitchen. Angela is a self-described cliche millennial who loves avocado toast, craft beer, and podcasts. I thought that was pretty funny because of the joke about millennials and avocado toast. She admits it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah. Welcome, Angela. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Small groups are always fun. So today we're going to talk about a sustainable diet. And so since it is such a small group, if you have any questions, feel free to ask as we go along. And so we're talking about a sustainable diet, and this is our 7 tips for shopping and eating for a more sustainable diet that is good for the planet. So we're going to go through like these 7 tips, and then at the end there'll be like a little summary slide with the 7 tips that you can take a screenshot of, and like a little shopping list if you need that too. So hopefully it should be good for you guys. So you can just sit back and relax. So we'll go through today, we're going to talk about what is a sustainable diet, and then we'll go through those 7 tips. So when it comes to a sustainable diet, we're really all on a spectrum of eating a sustainable diet already. Every time we make a food decision, what we choose to buy and eat, it really has an impact on that food system. But if we want to really define a sustainable diet, so if we're according to the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, a sustainable diet, it has a low environmental impact, and it's going to contribute to food and nutrition security for a healthy life for present and future generations. So sustainable diets, they really have 2 parts. So you've got the first part, which is really protecting the people. So by being nutritionally adequate, accessible, economically fair, and affordable, as well as being safe and promoting health. And then the second part is protecting the planet, of course, by being protective and respectful of biodiversity, ecosystems, and then optimizing natural and human resources. So in essence, a sustainable diet is a diet that is best for me and best for we, the planet. So let's walk through those 7 steps to really learn how we can achieve that diet that's going to be good for you and for the planet. So tip number 1, always when it comes to a sustainable diet, is to think MyPlate and eat more plants. So this is MyPlate. So if you're not familiar with MyPlate, oh, whoops, that's a different slide or what is that at the bottom? I can't remember. But that's like the athlete's plate down at the bottom. But in this top corner, that's the main MyPlate. And so MyPlate is a way to eat that kind of is just a way to structure your plate. So it takes that information that you might be more familiar with from the food pyramid, and it just puts it as a visual representation onto your plate. So the reason we want to follow MyPlate is because it's already plant-based. So if you look at MyPlate, you've got 3/4 of the plate is fruits, vegetables, and grains. So those are all plants. So it's already 75% plant-based, even if you're not opting for a plant-based protein. And according to some research when it comes to like sustainable systems, we want to really focus on those plants, but we don't need to cut out meat entirely. If that's part of your sustainable diet journey, you can certainly do that, but it doesn't have to be. So meat products, yes, they have a larger carbon footprint per calorie than vegetable or grain products. And this is in part because of the inefficient transformation of plant energy to animal energy and the release of methane from manure. So reducing animal consumption can have a significant impact on reducing our carbon footprint, which is a key factor in food sustainability. But like I said, you can definitely still make that positive environmental impact without becoming a vegetarian or vegan. So according to the WHO, if the US consumers cut back their meat intake by just 40%, they'd be doing their part to reduce global food emissions. So, that might be trying out like a meatless Monday or trying out like plant burgers every once in a while. It doesn't have to be making an extreme change in your diet. So now let's kind of talk about some ways we can make plants easier to eat. So first, you got to make it easy to add. So you can't eat more plates eat more produce if you don't have more produce. So when we say that your plate should be 3/4 produce, then about 3/4 of your basket or shopping cart should be produce as well, or plant products as well. So some products that might make it a little bit easier for you to add some plants into your diet include ones that are already cut. So you can opt for like some already sliced vegetables. Only thing there is typically they're going to come at a higher cost. So sometimes, if it's the ease you want, you just have to pay a little bit more for it. Salad kits are another great way to add more plants to your diet. Makes it really easy to throw together a salad. We like to say fresh, frozen, and canned, they all forms fit when it comes to eating produce. However you can get in your produce works for us. So you can do frozen blends, snap peas, those are a great snack. These are just some frozen oven roasting vegetables. And then of course you can opt for canned as well. And then one of our hand-picked products this month is by Dole. And Dole offers a variety of salad kits, canned fruit, and frozen fruit blends as well. And you can take part in our half cart produce challenge by joining our Facebook group, Healthy Living by Giant. Now, another thing to consider if you are trying to get more plants into your diet is trying to make them tasty, right? Because a lot of times when we're working with customers one-on-one, the biggest concern is, well, I don't really like vegetables. I don't like the way they taste, right? So it's important to make sure you season them and give them a little bit of flavoring. A good rule of thumb is to use whatever seasoning you're using on your protein, use it on your vegetables too. That way, it's not going to be two different extreme flavors or anything like that. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you are opting for a seasoning is to look at that sodium level, because we do want to watch our sodium intake, for just a general healthy diet overall. It's good for our heart health. So when you're looking at the sodium on the nutrition facts label, try to make sure that you're opting for something that is at least less than 20% of the daily value. So the daily value you can see, it's over here on the side. So this one's 28%. So that's telling you that it's not saying that this is 28% sodium, but it's saying that in 3 ounces of this seasoning, you are meeting 28% of the recommended intake of sodium for that day. So a good rule of thumb is to, anything that is low sodium is going to be less than 5%. Anything that's high sodium is greater than 20%. But you still have to keep in mind the serving size. So if you are using 6 ounces of the seasoning, which would be a lot, that would double the percentage too. So opting for some fun seasonings is a great way to make plants taste a little bit better. And then last we have make a plant swap. So there's lots of great plant-based meats out there these days. And so replacing meats with plant-based options, it's just a great way to get in more plants. Now, one thing to keep in mind that a lot of these plant-based options that you see on this slide, some of them are not necessarily healthier for your body, but they're healthier for the planet. So it comes at a little bit of a trade. So it's not that they're any less healthy than regular meat typically, but they do kind of have that similar same nutrient profile because they're trying to really make these products taste like regular meat. So they add in, things that are going to, they add in oils that are going to be sources of saturated fat, which is, the same thing for beef, is a source of saturated fat, which is not so good for our heart health. So it's not that these are bad for you, but they're good for the environment, and you still kind of want to treat them like regular meats in a way. So, not really have them every single night. So there's the fun ones, you've probably heard of Impossible Burger, Beyond Meat. This is like a chicken substitute. Tempeh is different. So tempeh is kind of like tofu. It's like a fermented soy product. So this one is like, probably going to be a little bit closer to like, like a healthier plant-based swap. And then there's also like veggie burgers too. So veggie burgers are different than plant-based burgers because veggie burgers are made from, a different variety of veggies, and they're not made to taste like a burger, but these are made to taste like a burger. Has anyone tried any of these?
Yes, I just tried, maybe a couple of months ago for the first time, tempeh, and that particular brand. My first go round, I was able to get the buffalo season version, which wasn't bad. It was easier to eat. Since then, I haven't been able to get the buffalo, so I've been getting the plain and trying to season it. I have not perfected it yet, but I've tried it on more than one occasion.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had tempeh, to be honest, but I should.
Yeah, it's like with most health foods, if it's something new, you kind of have to get adjusted to it. Both the texture and sometimes the taste.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I've tried the Impossible Burgers and I like them.
No, actually, I did that several years ago. From I bought them from, actually it was a White Castle, and I did not like it. Yeah, haven't tried it since.
Yeah. Well, I know like Burger King and stuff too has like the Impossible Whopper, so it's definitely maybe they've improved their formula since you've had it.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, great. So tip number 2 is all about buying local and in season. So this is a good one for the environment because when we choose local and in season, it helps cut down on a lot of the like transportation emissions. So, and in addition, a lot of times these local produce items are going to be a little bit higher in nutrients because they're a little bit more fresh. They're not having to travel as far. It can be hard to shop seasonably for a couple of reasons because sometimes first it's like hard to know what is in season. You kind of have to like keep it in the back of your mind or use some sort of like app or website or something like that. But good thing is about Giant is we do source from I think like over 150 local farms. So through the growing season, so through like June through October, you can find lots of local produce at Giant and your other local grocery stores too, I'm sure. So when it comes to some local products that you can find, these are some products that you'll find in Giant that are all locally made. Dogfish Head is beer brewed in Delaware. Virginia Chutney is in Virginia. Island Jerk Seasoning from Shenandoah is in Virginia. Rosetta Farms is in Maryland. Devil's Backbones, Virginia. The Mumbo sauce is DC, and Tessame's dressing, they are located just outside of Baltimore. So you can find a lot of local options. Typically, like if you're at Giant, you'll see it designated with a local, it's like a big green local sign. And then also we have products that are local and in season at Giant. So like I said, we source from a variety of local farms, Evans Farm in Delaware, Miller Farms, and Pfeiffer. Those are just a couple. Then we also have some seafood, like some crabs from Hooper's Crab House, which is located in Ocean City, Maryland. Clams from Cherrystone, Virginia. And then these two lettuce companies here, these are year-round local produce items because they are grown hydroponically. So Bowery and Bright Farms, so Bowery's in Maryland and Bright Farms is in Virginia, and they are hydroponic farms. So they don't need to be grown outside, so it's not really dependent on the weather. They're grown indoors, in water, no pesticides, no dirt, nothing like that. They're really easy to eat because you don't have to wash them since there's no pesticides or anything. And so they'll be in your aisles year round. So they're fresh and local year round. And they also have like herbs and stuff too. And then our third tip, so this is an interesting one. It's all about shopping the icons. So there's no particular certification system for sustainability, but you can look for icons like these on food labels throughout the grocery store. They each mean something different, and they can tell you a little bit more about the food that you might be purchasing. So let's kind of walk through some of these. So first up is Certified B Corp, which you can see with that little like B with a circle around it. So this verifies that a business balances purpose and profit. So they're legally required to consider the impact of their decisions on their workers, customers, suppliers, community, and the environment. The next you have BAT certified and MSC certified. So these are for sustainable seafood. So this is a great way to see if the seafood is caught sustainably. And so that doesn't always mean wild caught, because sometimes farm fish can be a little bit more sustainable than wild caught fish because of all of the other things that they catch when they're catching the wild caught fish. And one thing to note at Giant, that all of the seafood at Giant is 100% sustainable, whether you see these icons or not. So we have a partnership with the Maine Research Institute that all of our seafood is certified 100% sustainable. Then you have USA Organics. So this is an agricultural designation that dictates how produce should be grown. So this includes a whole host of sustainable and environmental friendly practices. Then you have fair trade. So fair trade, you'll see this a lot with like coffees and chocolates. And this designation is given to products that have environmentally friendly production methods and ethical working conditions for laborers and farmers. So like I said, you'll pretty much see this with like chocolate and coffees. Then you have the Rainforest Alliance. So personally, I don't know if I've ever really looked for this on a product, but it's definitely something to look for. The Rainforest Alliance, and then also Certified Humane and the Food Alliance. These ones, they are all lesser known, but they represent products that strive for farming and animal that are sustainable and have a low impact on the planet. Now, finally, the one that we have that really takes all of this into consideration is our impact ratings powered by HowGood. So on this slide, you see two different icons that you'll find in the aisles at Giant. So since we're kind of talking about sustainability right now, I'll talk about the impact ratings powered by HowGood. So these are 3 little leaves that you can see on the price tag when you're shopping in the grocery store. And so the more leaves you see, the better the product is for we, the planet. So the impact ratings powered by HowGood, it's not a nutrition rating, but it takes into consideration, all of the environmentally friendly products, minimally processed, and ethically produced. So products are rewarded 1, 2, or 3 leaves. Then on the other side of the page, you have our Guiding Stars program. So this is our nutrition rating system, and this takes into consideration ingredients such as saturated fat, added sugars, and sodium. If a product has ingredients that are high in those, it'll lose points. If a product is high in ingredients that are good sources of fiber, vitamins and minerals, or omega-3 fatty acids, those heart-healthy fatty acids, it'll gain points. So it's like a system of credits and debits. So the more stars you see, the better it is for you. So those are just little shopping tools you'll see at Giant, or if you are up north, like Stop and Shop or the Giant Company, you'll see those there as well. All right, so now let's kind of talk about some products that are some icon superstars. So you can see there's a variety of products that are going to have different, sustainability ratings and different nutrition ratings. Four Sigmatic coffee is, it's a pricey coffee blend, but it's got some ground up mushrooms in it, like adaptogen mushrooms, which can help with stress. So that might be a fun one to try if you want. This soy milk that you can see, it's certified B Corp, organic, Guiding Stars, and has a How Good rating. The MSC, you can see this is organic. So these are just some products that you might want to add to your cart if you're looking for some sustainable swaps. Personally, I'm a big fan of, yeah.
Yeah, ask you a question. Can you repeat the name of the coffee again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Four Sigmatic.
Four Sigmatic. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, it's really expensive.
Okay. I can't see the name on the graphic, at least on my computer. But the fact that you mentioned that it has mushrooms and adaptogens, one of our other sessions, we actually had a herbologist. She covered adaptogens and talked about mushrooms in particular. So that's a very nice connecting product right there.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, so adaptogens, they can help support like brain function, focus, and concentration. So yeah, it's I've had it. I really like it personally, and it's fun. And then personally, I'm a big fan of the Banza pasta too. It's a pasta made from chickpeas. So since it's made from chickpeas, it's a little bit lower in carbs if you're watching your carbs, but the reason I like it is it's a really good source of protein. So it's going to be a good source of protein as well as fiber. So if you are someone who likes to try those pasta alternatives, that's personally one of my favorites. And then we have some more products here. So some of these are regenerative products. So regenerative products are kind of fun because they're produced in a way where it's net positive for the environment. So they're not going carbon neutral. They're taking it a step forward and putting it in a net positive direction. So two examples on this side are Force of Nature. They have like a bunch of meats in the frozen section. And so they work towards restoring ecological health by focusing on the soil and raising nutrient-dense beef in a way that is net positive for the environmental impact. They offer beef, venison, elk steaks, and ground meats. So if you want to learn more about like that net positive stuff, their website is really well done and has a lot of great information. They don't have any icons currently, so that's why it has that. Another net positive one is the Organic Valley grass milk. So this is from milk from 100% grass-fed cows, and research shows that grass-fed cows have more omega-3s than milk from cows that eat mostly grain. So like Force of Nature, they promote grazing ruminant populations for a healthier regenerative ecosystem. Then there's some products on here that are upcycled. So upcycled products are all about reducing waste by using imperfect produce. So Eat the Change mushroom jerky, it's an organic mushroom jerky, and it's from the founder of the Honest Tea, the Honest Teas, and then also Beyond Meat and Plant Burger. And then also in collaboration with Spike Mendelsohn, which is, he was like a Bravo top chef. And it's actually a Maryland-based company. They're based out of Bethesda, Maryland. And they are committed to supporting biodiversity by avoiding the 6 biggest crops, like corn, soy, wheat, I can't remember the rest. And they also use recycled packaging. So some of their products don't get a Guiding Star, but they're still, super great for the environment. And they really focus on mushrooms because mushrooms are one of the more sustainable produce items that we grow. And then also we have the Frozen Farmer, which is, I believe they're based out of Delaware. And so they make ice cream and nice cream, so like sorbets, from ugly, unsellable fruit to really help cut back on food waste on their farm. And so they were actually seen on Shark Tank. And then there are some brands that are just, doing it all. So we have 7th Generation Laundry. So this is it's a laundry detergent, and they are certified B Corp, and they make their products from renewable plant-based ingredients, and they use recycled materials for their packaging. So you can see like it's not in a plastic container, it's in this like wooden cardboardy container. And then of course Ben & Jerry's. So Ben & Jerry's, they are of course a delicious ice cream, but they also do a lot for climate justice. They are fair trade, and they do life cycle analysis of the environmental impact on all of their products from farm to spoon, and they use it to reduce their carbon footprint. Plus, a lot of the money that they raise goes to supporting causes like democracy and LGBTQ equality. All right, so now moving into step 4. So this is a big one, planning to reduce food waste. So, you know, when it comes to a sustainable diet, it's not all about what exactly we're eating and what we're buying, but it's also about what goes into our trash, right? So Americans throw away around 1 pound of food per day. So that's about 225 to 300 pounds per year, or $640 worth of food. And so when all that food goes into the trash, all of the resources it took to produce and transport that food is also wasted. So one of the most important steps you can do as a consumer is to be more conscious about the food that you take off the shelf and bring into your home, ensuring that it is stored properly and used. And this isn't also, you know, this is good for the environment, but it's also great for your own money saving, right? So let's talk about 2 ways that we can really help reduce food waste. So first up is going
Angela?
to be, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to interject something. The numbers that she just shared, I believe that's per person.
Mm-hmm.
So think about the number of people in your household and adjust the numbers accordingly.
Yes,
So
correct.
in terms
Yeah.
of cost savings.
Yeah, so it's a big one.
Yes.
And so one way to really help reduce that is storing our food properly. It can really help like extend the life of a lot of produce items, because if you store food improperly, it can, like especially produce items, right? It can ripen and cause the produce to wilt or rot. So some general rules of thumb when it comes to storing your produce. Try not to wash produce until you're ready to eat it. Sometimes people like to wash it so that way it's in the fridge and they can easily grab it when they need a snack. And so if that's what works best for you and you find that you're going through the produce that way, that's fine. But if you are someone who maybe finds yourself throwing away a lot of rotten produce, maybe try not washing it until you're ready to eat it. Another thing to consider is to store produce the way you found it in the grocery store. So if your grocery store keeps it in water or mist the produce, then maybe try to do that at home too. You know, you don't have to mist it, but maybe like store it in a wet paper towel. Like the common way or a great way to store fresh herbs, like if you just got a bunch of cilantro, what you can do is put it in like a jar or a glass full of water, and then put like a plastic bag over it. That helps it kind of stay or keep it from wilting or going bad quickly. If you've got like green onions, you can wrap the base of those in a wet paper towel. That can be a good way to prevent those from drying out too. Also, things like tomatoes. You know, sometimes people store their tomatoes in the fridge, but if you think about tomatoes, when you buy them at the grocery store, they are not in the refrigerated section. So think about where produce is in the grocery store or at a produce stand, and try to store it that way at home as well. So things like onions, potatoes, and tomatoes, we want to keep those out of the fridge. And then talk about our crisper drawer. That's next. So this was one thing that I am still trying to figure out too. So you want to, first when it comes to the fridge, keep your fridge set to around 35 to 38 degrees Fahrenheit and really utilize that crisper drawer. So the crisper drawer, how it works is it allows you to adjust the humidity or the amount of space in the drawers that are left open for airflow. So when set to low humidity, the drawers will introduce some airflow into it. When it's set to high humidity, the drawers are closed off without any airflow, allowing the produce to create like humidity and emit ethylene gas. So ethylene gas is what ripens produce. So if you, or some produce is more susceptible to it than others, but if you don't have those controls on your drawers, it's by default a high humidity crisper. But so if you are putting some stuff in there that you don't want in that high humidity, you can just like leave it cracked open a little bit. So the low humidity drawer, so when you put it to low, that should store your fruit. And then the high humidity drawer should store produce that's sensitive to moisture loss and ethylene gas, which increases that ripening time. So this includes veggies and leafy greens, as well as fragile fruits like berries. And then finally, you want to be sure to not cram too much in there because you want it to be able to breathe a little bit. Where's my mouse? Okay. And then next up, when it comes to a sustainable diet and reducing that food waste, it's really beneficial to plan out your meals. Now, you don't have to have everything planned out entirely, but just having some sort of plan for everything that you're buying is going to be good. You know, one thing that can be detrimental to that is like if we're shopping and we don't really have a list, right? Or we're shopping and we're hungry, we can kind of have these impulse purchases. And those impulse purchases, typically those lead to ingredients that don't really have a plan and typically end up going to waste. So I want to try to incorporate everything that we buy at the grocery store into what we're cooking that week, choosing low waste recipes with sustainable ingredients. So incorporating some fresh local produce, but then also knowing, you know, if you're someone who tends to throw away a lot of produce, knowing that and opting for some frozen produce and figuring out how you can use that in your meals as well. Like personally, I know like earlier this year, I was throwing away a lot of broccoli. So I switched to buying frozen broccoli because it's a produce item I like to have on hand, but sometimes I forget about it. So that can be good too, to buying, you know, those frozen options. And then also you can try what's called the root to tip or the nose to tail movement. So this is just using as much of your produce or your meat as possible. So for example, if you've got like a chicken roast, using the bones and the leftover bits to create like a stock, or, you know, if you're buying the carrots that have the leafy greens on the top, cooking those greens and then using the whole carrots, or same for like beets or something like that as well. And next, tip number 5 is to have a backup plan. So sometimes even our best laid plans don't work out. So it's important to have some sort of backup plan. So some of the most common foods that we tend to throw away are coffee, milk, apples, bread, potatoes, and pasta. So, you know, if you have any of those often in your trash can, I think the coffee is typically just the used grounds, but still those can be composted. But if you have any of those in your trash can frequently, try to see if there's anything you can do with those. So when it comes to veggies that might be about to turn, one really great way to use them up is to roast them. So this can also help if you aren't really a big fan of veggies. Definitely try roasting them. Throw them on a sheet pan with some olive oil or some avocado oil and roast them in the oven at like 350 to 400 for like 20 minutes. And roasting veggies is great because it helps bring out the natural sweetness of them. You can also freeze them. So freezing is another great option for fruits especially, but also for vegetables or any leftovers you have in the fridge that might be about to go bad. So if you want to freeze bananas, those are particularly good to add to smoothies or to oatmeal later. You can freeze avocados as well, and you can just pop them in the microwave before you want to use them. Then last, you have pickling. So pickling is another great way to kind of help cut back on some waste. You can pickle things that are about to go bad, and you can just do a quick pickle. You know, you don't have to go through like the intense pickling or like canning process unless you want to. But you can do just like a quick pickle and it'll give it like another, you know, week or so in your refrigerator. So to do some sort of quick pickle, you can do 2 parts water, 2 parts white vinegar, and 1 part sugar. Then you can add in your veggies and whatever spices you want. Personally, I'm a big fan of like quick pickled onions and jalapenos and throwing those on like chicken sandwiches or salads or grain bowls. Very tasty. And then last is composting. So when
Angela, I'm sorry.
yeah.
I just have a quick question. With the quick pickling, did you say it lasts up to 1 week additional? Or can you get a longer shelf life out of it?
That's a good question. I always like to do just like 1 or 2 weeks to be safe. But you can always, take a look at it. If you see any like mold or anything suspect, or if it just doesn't look right, then, toss it. But I would say like 1 to 2 weeks tops probably, or to be safe,
Okay, great. Thank you.
Uh-huh. And then you can do composting as well. So personally, I've never really gotten into composting. It's on my list to do. But especially if you are a gardener, composting can be super beneficial. A lot of like areas too have like places you can drop off your compost at, like a farmer's market, or some grocery stores you can drop off your compost at as well. Then tip number 6 is all about looking at product dates differently. Because sometimes those dates they're just kind of guidance, right? With the exception of baby formula. So baby formula, you definitely want to follow those dates because the formula can start to lose its nutritional value and change consistency after that date. So, but the other dates can be a little bit confusing, right? So you have your best by date. So your best if used by or before date. So this guarantees when a product is of the best quality or flavor. So for instance, a jar of salsa may not taste as fresh, or crackers might not be as soft, or they might be a little bit soft or like stale instead of crisp after this date, but it's not really about safety. Now, the sell by date, this is for the store, and it tells them when to remove it from the shelves or put it on manager special or markdown. Then you have the use by date, and this is the last date that guarantees the best quality of the product. So it can be beneficial to look at those product dates a little bit different and really use that sniff test like I talked about. Like I'll give a personal example. I had some yogurt in the fridge recently that had expired like the end of July, I think. But it didn't have any mold and it still tasted good. So I ate it and it was fine. But I had this morning, for example, I was making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and my jelly had mold in it and it wasn't expired yet. So I threw that away. So, it's just all about using the sniff test and checking for any sort of mold or anything like that. Now, there are certain things that you probably, don't want to eat past a certain date. And especially, too, if you've got, like, products that are homemade, definitely looking at those carefully, too. All right. So last up, tip number 7 is using your phone for help. So there's lots of apps that can really help you in this quest for a more sustainable diet. So there are apps that can help with sustainable grocery shopping. So one of those is the seasonal food guide. And so this tells you what produce is local or what produce items are in season in your area. You can put in the date and where you're located and it'll tell you what's in season where you are. Next is the How Good app. So if you remember our impact rating system, this is their app, How Good. And so you can scan a product, you can type in a product, you can search for products, and it will give you that How Good rating of good, better, and best. Then you have some apps that can help with sustainable eating. So the Food Keeper app, this helps to understand the best storage practices for food and beverages and how to maximize the freshness and the quality of items. So that's a good one to refer to if you aren't sure how to store something. And then you have the Curie app, which is a sustainable cooking app. So it curates recipes based on your region, dietary preferences, lifestyle choices, and values. They use carbon emissions data and dynamic seasonality to suggest the most sustainable options. And every time you cook with the app, it will plant a tree on your behalf. So that brings us to the end. So these are our 7 tips all, on one slide for you. So if you want to take a screenshot, feel free. So we talked about eating more plants, buying local and in season, shopping the icons, working on reducing food waste, having a backup plan for some of those products that typically go to waste, looking at dates a little differently, and using your phone for help. And then if you want to add any of these products we talked about today to your shopping list, you can take a screenshot of this shopping list below or here. And then if you want to learn more about Giant Nutrition, definitely go to giantfood.com/nutrition. Definitely be sure to join our Facebook group. You can find it on Facebook by searching for Healthy Living by Giant. And then you can also listen to our podcast, Nutrition Made Easy. You can find it wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for Nutrition Made Easy. And that's all. That's all I have for you guys today. Does anyone have any questions?
I do have one question. Angela, are these icons also displayed at your Stop and Shop affiliate?
I'm pretty sure they are. The Guiding Stars and the How Good. For sure, Guiding Stars. I'm not positive about How Good, but I'm pretty sure it should be because we're all kind of, under that same umbrella. Now, I will say, like, these icons, they are kind of hard to find. They're really small. They're typically like in the corner of the price tag. So you really do have to look for them. And I will say too, Guiding Stars is undergoing a rebranding that's going to be taking place in the fall. So it won't look like that blue man with the stars above his head anymore. It'll be a green apple with the stars above it. So that's something to look for in the fall.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
I learned a couple of new things today. Those icons for sustainability, regenerative, upcycling, some of them I'd never seen before.
Uh-huh.
And if I had seen them, I probably didn't know what they were. So
Yeah.
I'll look for them now.
Yeah, it's tough, right? You really have to look for them. Before I worked at Giant, I didn't really know about those either. And I was like, whoa, that's awesome.
Yes. Any other questions? Shelley Mitchell,
Nope.
you good?
Nope, I'm good.
Hmm?
Very thorough. Thank you so much, Angela. It's a great presentation.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Learned some new things today.
I'm so glad. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it.
I
Our
want
pleasure.
to thank you, Angela, again, and definitely appreciate you making time to hang out with us and to share your knowledge.
Of course, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And I'll be back sometime soon.
Yes, you have to go back and look at the schedule. Yes.
Thank you.
She'll be back.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you, Mitchell and Shelley, for attending.
Absolutely. Have a great evening.
You
All
too.
right. All right. Take care, everybody.
Take care.